everyone, it's Alexa from Alexa Loves Books, and I am back with another recommendation type video. So if you guys caught my video last Tuesday, I talked about the 8 contemporary and 2 historical young adult novels that I've loved and haven't talked about in a while. And today I decided it would be fun if I do another video, this time featuring my science fiction and fantasy books that I haven't talked about in a while but I really loved. So without further ado, let's get started. All Our Yesterdays by Kristen Terrell. This is probably one of my all-time favorite time travel YA novels just because I thought it was so clever, it was very well paced, and I really enjoyed how the plot played out. The premise basically starts with a girl named M who is imprisoned in a cell and she only has the boy next door to keep her company. But as the further it unravels, the more we discover about their situation and why they ended up there and what they're supposed to be doing. Let's just say that there's a lot of time travel involved, there are relationships that get tested, and I really just, I was so caught up in this world and in this story, and I think it just really is compelling. These Broken Stars by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner, and I'm also, in addition to this, recommending the 2 books that follow it, This Shattered World and Their Fractured Light. Okay, first of all, I really adore this cover. I think it's beautifully done, and you guys can actually see the whole thing. Let me show you. Ta-da! It's beautiful, right? This book is about Tarver Morenzen and Lilac LaRue, and they're both on what is basically the equivalent of the Titanic in space. And it's like the maiden journey, everyone is, celebrating, enjoying it, and then the ship is torn apart. Yes, that happens. So very Titanic in space. And these 2 are the only survivors and find themselves on this planet that they don't know, and they have to figure out a way to communicate with someone so they can be rescued. And basically the book really tackles their journey on this planet, what they encounter, how their relationship kind of develops, and they learn something that they were not expecting. I don't think I'm going to say more than that, but I will say that it is a little confusing, I will admit that, but I really enjoyed it. I really like Lilac and Tarver. And then the confusion you feel in the first book, if you binge the series, you're going to see how it all plays out until the end, and I think the authors did it really well. It's actually very well set up, and I really like that. So I'd highly recommend this one, and it's 2 sequels, so definitely check that out. For Darkness Shows the Stars by Diana Peterfriend, and there's also a sequel, it's called Across a Star-Swept Sea, and I would also recommend that one. I'm totally cheating at this, but whatever. This book is about Elliot North, who pretty much has her societal place set in the world, and she fell in love with someone, but because they weren't in the same station, they couldn't be together. And so, they separate, and she's left there to run her family's estate and the farm. Like, fast forward years later, and Elliot is struggling because her farm is struggling, so she has to ask for help. Because she has to ask for help, or to figure out an alternative way, she has to rent land, and so she rents land to this group of people, and among them is the guy that she used to love, happens to be part of that crew. And so you can imagine that things happen. I thought it was so beautifully written. I've never read Persuasion, but I wanted to after I read this book, because I think just the way that Diana Peterfriend wrote the romance, which is the main thing in Persuasion too, was so fascinating. And I would like to draw the parallels between them, which is why I would read Persuasion, the original, and then I would read this one again and see what I could, draw as parallels between them. But on its own, as a novel, it's also really great. The world that she built is very inventive, very different from anything I've read, and I really liked how the writing flows in this one. Something Strange and Deadly by Susan Dennard, and I would also recommend the rest of this series, obviously. That's A Darkness Strange and Lovely and Strange and Ever After. This is basically the story of a girl named Eleanor Fitt, and she is living in Philadelphia. Her brother has gone missing, her family is struggling to make ends meet, and she basically already has a ton to deal with, and then the dead come to life and start invading Philadelphia. And it's scary, it's like a zombie apocalypse in historical times, and honestly, I don't know how she managed to keep her cool, but she did. She eventually falls in with a group called the Spirit Hunters, and together they try to figure out what is going on, how all these undead are coming to life, how all these dead are coming to life and attacking the city, and it's quite an adventure. This one actually reads faster than I thought it would, so when I first read it, I flew through the pages. I definitely enjoyed it, and I love that this one is in Philly, the second one is set in Paris, and the third one is set in Egypt. The Burning Sky by Sherry Thomas, and obviously I'm going to say it again, I also recommend the sequels, The Perilous Sea and The Immortal Heights. This book is about a girl named Iolanthe who is apparently a prophesied elemental mage who can defeat the Bane, who is the great evil that has taken over the magical country she resides in. And together with Titus, who is the prince of that land, she has to work with him in order to find a way to defeat the Bane. The only way she can escape the Bane's notice right now, after drawing attention to herself, she actually goes with Titus to his boarding school in real-world London, and she pretends to be a boy. There's just a lot of stuff that I really enjoyed about this one, not only because Aelinthe pretends to be a boy, which is one of my favorite fantasy tropes, but I thought like the magical system was really interesting, I thought the prophecy was interesting, and I think that the fact that she managed to set it in 2 different worlds and then make it seem like a cohesive one world was really good too. So definitely check out this series. The Girl of Fire and Thorns by Ray Carson, along with the sequels, The Crown of Embers and The Bitter Kingdom. What I think is most amazing about this one is that it really is about this girl who she's insecure and she knows she has some kind of destiny because Elisa, the main character of this book, she has a godstone in her belly and that marks her as special. It means she's going to do something. And even though she has that, she's still insecure because she doesn't know what it is. And I really enjoyed seeing her journey from who she is in the first book, which is insecure and kind of uncertain about her own future, to who she becomes by the last book, a true queen, one who's ready to step up and take action and really do stuff. It's just amazing. Her romance, and I'm not going to say who it's with, although I'm sure if you've read it you know, I really love how that romance just develops. It's so good. It's so good. I was so invested, and I'm still so invested in that romance. The setting is really well done. I thought that the description of it was really great, and it definitely felt like it drew influences from some real world cultures, but at the same time it was something very unique. Definitely give this one a read if you haven't yet. Sarafina by Rachel Hartman. I think this take on dragons is one of my favorites. It's very interesting. Basically it's about a girl named Sarafina. She's half dragon, half human. She basically is a musician, and she happens to be around when a member of the royal family is murdered in a way that only a dragon would do it. And so while they're busy investigating, she gets swept up in that, and a lot of things happen. And I just have to say that I really thought it was so fun to read. I really liked reading about this whole take on half dragon, half humans, and watching the whole mystery unravel was also really great. Grave Mercy by Robin Lefevre, and I also really liked Dark Triumph and Mortal Heart, which are the other 2 books in the series. And this story is basically about a girl named Isme, and she has either got to choose between being married to someone who she doesn't love and who seems brutal, or becoming a handmaid of death. And of course she chooses the role of a handmaiden of death, and she's kick-ass at it. She's sent on her first mission, and in that mission she's going to Brittany to pose as the mistress or like friend or consort maybe of Gabriel Duval, because he's under suspicion for treasonous things. And what I think is really interesting about this book is that the author got really creative with how the handmaidens of death are portrayed, and I really like that. I also like that she wove it into a story about like real historical events that happened in Brittany. That was really fascinating to me. And just so you know, even though there's a big plot arc that goes from 1, 2, and 3, each book is about a different girl, and it's almost like a companion to the others, and it's great. Like honestly, it's just great. The Circle of Magic by Tamara Pierce. It's her series set in Amelon, and it's basically the first 4, the first quartet are Sandry's book, Daja's book, Triss's book, and Briar's book. I don't remember if I'm saying them in the right order. I hope I really enjoyed this one because it's just so cute. There's these 4 different children who are brought to this place on Winding Circle because it's discovered that they each have an ability in magic. And they're being trained to, hone that ability and use it and become great mages. And I love that. I think it's just so interesting that I get to read a book about these kids who grow up together, learn together, become friends, become almost family, and they can wield magic. And this is their first adventure. This is Sandry's book, so this is their very first adventure, and I loved it. Incarnate by Jodi Meadows, along with Asunder and Infinite, and Phoenix Overture, which is the novella. I freaking love this series. I don't even know how many times I've said it, but I do. It's not what I would expect it to be, and I think that's what I latched onto and what I really enjoyed about it. It's basically about a girl named Anna, and she's the first new soul born in like thousands of years after all of these souls have been reincarnated. So one soul obviously does not come back, and Anna takes that soul's place. It's all about her journey to figure out how she was born, why she was born, what happened to trigger her birth. And it's also simply trying to find her place in this world where everyone has known each other forever, everyone is very capable, they have different interests and abilities, and she's learning everything for the first time, and I can't imagine how that must feel like to her. It's very creative. There's a lot that happens in this one. I can't even tell you about the entire series without spoiling it, so I'm not going to, but I will say that I really loved Anna as a character. I loved being able to go with her on her individual journey. And I also like getting to see how it fit into the larger world that she was in. Plus, there's this very, very, very cute boy named Sam. Definitely read the series. Check it out. Please, please, please check it out. That is it for today's video, you guys. I hope you enjoyed seeing my recommendations. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of them, if you have more science fiction and fantasy that you would want to recommend to me. I would love, love, love more recommendations, and I would love it if you give this video a thumbs up. And if you would subscribe to my channel, and all my other social media links are down there. And I will see you guys soon. Goodbye!